Hello and welcome to HITC Sport. My name's James, let's not waste any time. Today we're going to look at a world class player your Premier League club could have signed back when he was a youngster. Quick caveat, not all of them are world class. A couple of them are pretty average, but you know, limitations and all that. Arsenal, Cristiano Ronaldo. If Arsene Wenger had signed all the players he nearly signed during his Arsenal tenure, they probably won a lot more trophies. But the biggest one they missed out on was Cristiano Ronaldo, and he confirmed as much on ITV last year. He was doing an interview with Piers Morgan whilst, the ITV bloke was just licking his arse the whole afternoon. And since the lovely Piers is an Arsenal fan, he asked him about the rumours. Ronaldo replied, "It's true, of course it's true." And then he was asked how close it was. He said, "Very close, one step away actually from becoming a gunner." Piers Morgan handed him an Arsenal shirt with Ronaldo 7 on the back, and to be honest, that's as close as he ever came to wearing the Arsenal number 7. Aston Villa, RADAMEL, FALCAO. Back in 2008, a Colombian striker was plying his trade in Argentina for River Plate, but he could have been on the way to England. Aston Villa were offered the chance to sign Falcao for £5 million, but instead, Martin O'Neill thought, nah, I'll get Emil Heskey instead. I mean, to be fair, that Aston Villa side was great, but they would have been a lot better with Radamel Falcao leading the line. But then again, Falcao isn't as much of a meme machine as Heskey is. Bournemouth, Mason Mount. Okay, I told you not every player was going to be world class, but when I did all the research, Bournemouth didn't nearly sign any young players that went on to become brilliant. It's almost as if they spent most of the time in League 1 and League 2 and have only just reached the Premier League. But in March last year, Bournemouth were linked with the move for Mason Mount, who seemed destined for the Premier League, having impressed with Derby in the Championship. The Sun reported that Eddie Howe was leading the race to sign Mount, but obviously that fell on its arse because Chelsea got a transfer ban and they needed Mount to play for them. Brighton, Virgil van Dijk. Every Premier League club wishes they'd signed Virgil van Dijk back when he was in Holland, but Brighton actually became really close. In 2013, before he joined Celtic, Van Dijk was playing for Groningen and he was actually a target for Brighton. Gus Poyet told TalkSport, "I went to see Van Dijk at Groningen when I was a coach at Brighton. We went all the way up to Groningen to watch the game and it was too easy for him. He was already incredible. After 10 minutes you could see that he was bigger than everyone, more powerful than everyone, and so calm on the ball. We watched the whole game and afterwards we talked to the chairman and we started getting in contact with the club and the agents, but he was too expensive for Brighton. He was €3 million at the time. Brighton had just come into the Championship, although a year later we spent €3 million on a striker, Leonardo Ulloa, but for a defender at that time it was impossible. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I think if Brighton had the time again, they'd have rather spent the €3 million on Van Dijk instead of Ulloa, but then again, Ulloa's the only one out of the two who's won a Premier League yet. Burnley, Hakim Ziyech. The Moroccan international is due to sign for Chelsea in the summer, but things could have been very different a few years ago. In 2016 he was still with Utrecht, on the brink of a move to Ajax, but he could have actually joined Burnley. The Clarets had broken their transfer record twice already that summer, and they were willing to do it for a third time on Ziyech, but instead he opted to join Ajax, and the rest is history. I've said that already. With all due respect to Ziyech, I don't quite see him how he would have fit in a turf moor. Considering Sean Dyche thought Patrick Bamford was too soft for Burnley, Hakim Ziyech wouldn't have had a prayer. Chelsea, Christian Eriksen. With the Gareth Bale money, Tottenham signed Christian Eriksen and many more, but the Dane was the only one who did great things for Tottenham. However, he could have been a Chelsea player a long time ago. In an interview with the Daily Mail, Eriksen revealed that he had multiple trials at Chelsea as a teenager, but he instead decided to go elsewhere. Eriksen said, "I played 3 games at under-18s versus Millwall, West Ham and some other team. We ate together with the first team players, and you see Jose Mourinho and Didier Drogba walking around." In the end, Eriksen decided to stay away from Chelsea and opt for another team with a clear route to the first team, which is exactly what he got at Tottenham. But then again, after Tottenham I think he was expecting to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona, not Inter Milan. Then again, Inter Milan's not that bad, is it? He gets to play with Ashley Young, the lucky devil. Crystal Palace, Michael Carrick. In 2004, Crystal Palace won promotion back to the Premier League. Meanwhile, West Ham were demoted to the Championship. Michael Carrick is one of the rising stars at Upton Park, and it was clear he's destined for bigger things in the Championship. Crystal Palace tried to sign him according to Simon Jordan, and they actually had a £3.5 million bid accepted for him. However, they never got in contact with the player, and instead he would sign for Tottenham, eventually going on to play for Man United. And to be honest, he's probably one of the most underrated players England have had in recent years. I hate the word underrated, but that's what Carrick was. Everton, Erling Haaland. This season's been the making of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, a striker who had previously struggled in the Premier League. But will Everton be glad they stuck by him? 2 years ago they could have signed someone even better, in the name of Erling Haaland. You know, the teenager who's absolutely tearing it up at Borussia Dortmund and had the whole PSG team on strings. So much so that the likes of Mbappe and Neymar were mocking Haaland after they beat them in the Champions League. I mean, it's a little bit embarrassing, lads, come on, he's only 18. But 2 years ago Everton could have signed Haaland from Molde, but instead they decided to stick with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I mean, Calvert-Lewin's alright, but he's no Erling Haaland, I'll put it that way. Leicester, Robert Lewandowski. I don't know how much I believe this one, but to be honest I couldn't really find anyone for Leicester. But according to the Polish media in 2009, the Foxes actually sent scouts to watch Lewandowski back when he was playing for Lech Poznan. Leicester were in the Championship back in 2009, and just imagine what they could have done with Lewandowski. They might win the Premier League even sooner. No, that probably wouldn't have happened actually. Liverpool and Nemanja Vidic. He's a Manchester United legend, but he could have been an Anfield hero. He was 24 at the time, and Rafa Benitez had identified the Serbian as a man he wanted for his Liverpool rebuild, eyeing him up as the Sami Hyypiä replacement he needed. But instead he would join Manchester United and endure a horrible afternoon after horrible afternoon against Liverpool. He must have nightmares about Fernando Torres still. And just think if he'd signed for Liverpool, they could have been best friends. Manchester City, Paul Pogba. The French midfielder is on his second spell with Manchester United currently, and that could have been sandwiched with a spell at Manchester City. Back when Roberto Mancini was manager, the Italian claimed that he could have actually signed Pogba. He told Tuttosport, "Yes, I really like him. 2 years ago we could have brought him to Man City on a free transfer. I can't really remember why we decided not to." That speaks a lot about the recruitment system at Man City. I can't remember why we didn't sign him, I think we just forgot. I think the reason Man City decided not to sign Pogba was because they'd already signed an elite level midfielder. Remember Jack Rodwell? He was going to be England's next big thing. Now he's at Sheffield United somehow, after robbing a living at Sunderland. Manchester United, Iron Robin. If things had gone differently in 2004, Man United could have had Iron Robin and Cristiano Ronaldo flying down the wings. Would that have worked? The Dutch flyer actually had dinner with Sir Alex Ferguson, and he said the reason he didn't sign for Man United was because they didn't actually offer him a deal, but if they had, he would have signed straight away. Instead, Chelsea got his signature for £12 million, and he went on to become one of the greatest wingers of our generation. And the man who was apparently behind the whole deal, Peter Kenyon. He was Man United's chief executive when Man United were first linked with Iron Robin, and then he moved to Chelsea and he brought him with him. Crafty that is, very crafty. Newcastle United, Luka Modric. We've all heard of this one before. Yes, Newcastle had a deal to sign Croatian midfielder Luka Modric in place before he went to sign for Tottenham. This was back in the Kevin Keegan days when he was fighting the Mike Ashley regime, with little to no effect. Speaking to an event about the deal, Keegan said, "We tried to sign Modric. Modric's agent was a massive fan of mine and he was about to sign for Spurs. He hopped onto a train to Newcastle and all we had to do was sell the club to him. Mr. Jimenez said, I've watched him, I don't think he's big enough or strong enough to play in the Premier League. That was the end of that, he killed it stone dead." I mean, Tony Jimenez, what a bloke he was. He watched players on YouTube, he was a bit of a crook really. Yet he had the final say instead of Kevin Keegan about whether Newcastle could sign Luka Modric. Just think how Newcastle could have ruined that young man's career. Norwich City, Sebastian Haller. I told you some of these players weren't going to be world class, some of them aren't even class. But West Ham paid £45 million for Haller this season, and to be honest, he could have been a Norwich player 4 years prior. Just like Hakim Ziyech who's playing for Utrecht, but he didn't have any plans to leave the Dutch club. Haller told Football International, "The story was all that was I was medically examined. It was rubbish. I was not going to play at Norwich City. I have a different plan in my head, and that is until the summer to stay with FC Utrecht and play in the coming months to try and get the club in the Europa League." Norwich is the only club that has come in so far with a bid. Bit harsh that, wasn't it, Sebastian? There's no need to be a dick about it. Leave poor Norwich alone. They've got enough going on. They might get relegated this season, so might you if you're not careful. Sheffield United, Diego Maradona. Just imagine it. Back in the 70s, Sheffield United could actually have signed Diego Maradona back when he was a teenager playing in Argentina. Everything was going to plan, everything was agreed. Maradona even had flights to come to Bramall Lane. But when his agent realised he had such a gem in his hands, they asked for more money, and Sheffield United just couldn't afford it. So instead they had to back away from the deal, and Maradona went on to have the career he had, having never played in England. To be honest, he wouldn't be welcome after that bloody handball. Arsehole. Southampton, Son Heung-min. The South Korean forward was destined to play for Maurizio Pochettino, considering he tried to sign him twice. He eventually managed to do it with Tottenham, but had things gone differently, it could have been when he was a Southampton manager. At the time, Son was at Hamburg, but Pochettino wanted to bring him to the Premier League in St Mary's. Just think how differently things would be right now if Son had signed for Southampton. He could have been in that Liverpool team that got beat by Atletico Madrid the other night. Tottenham Hotspur, Eden Hazard. Had Chelsea not won that Champions League against Bayern Munich, Eden Hazard's career might have been very, very different indeed. The Belgian hummed and hawed about his future for months. Would it be Chelsea? Would it be Man United? Would it be Liverpool? Was he linked with Liverpool? Can't remember. But no one knew who he was going to join, just that it was going to be to a Premier League club. In an interview with France Football, Hazard revealed that it actually could have been Spurs. The Belgian said, "It's true that Tottenham tempted me because it was a young team which was third in the league. Unfortunately, the end of the season did not go well. They did not reach the Champions League, which tipped the balance. Christ, if Didier Drogba hadn't sunk that penalty against Bayern Munich, Hazard might have had to play for Tottenham. If I was Eden Hazard, I'd be thinking, there goes Didier Drogba. I must remember to thank that man one day." Watford, Jadon Sancho. Okay, this is a cop-out because I couldn't find anyone for Watford, because Watford actually had Jadon Sancho back in the day. but when he was a 14-year-old, he was signed by Man City. So really based on that, Watford could have actually had a world-class player in their ranks, and they did, but they never had him on a professional deal, so kind of cancel this video. Kind of, let's move on. West Ham, Andrei Shevchenko. This is a fantastic story by Harry Redknapp, and one of the reasons we all love him. He told the Daily Mail back in the day, "I was at West Ham and Frank Lampard Sr. and I were approached by these two villains," this sounds dodgy already, "who said they were doing some business in the Ukraine." Again, sounds dodgy. "And we were so scared of them we agreed to have a look at a couple of these kids." Very, very dodgy. One of them we played against Barnet Reserves and he scored the winner. They said they wanted £1 million for him and Frank said it was too much. Well, I'm blaming Frank and we let him go. His name was Andrei Shevchenko. You know, I still can't believe Andrei Shevchenko flopped at Chelsea. I was really excited when that transfer happened as a kid and he was rubbish. I'm still sad about it now. I don't think I'll ever get over it. And finally, Wolves, Gareth Bale. In 2009, Gareth Bale couldn't catch a break. He decided to sign for Tottenham a couple of years prior, but it wasn't going well. He was on a barren run of not being able to win a game. I think he was still playing at left back at the time, and to be honest, it looked like Tottenham had sold an absolute dud. He was actually set to go out on loan in 2009, but one event changed the course of history forever. Former Wolves striker Kevin Doyle said, "I remember he was nearly coming to us on loan in one of the transfer windows." That shows how far he's come in the last 6 or 7 years, but I think that someone got injured at Spurs and the deal fell through. God, just imagine if Bale had gone on loan that season to Wolves. I don't think Wolves were great at that time, and to be honest, Bale might never become the player he is today. I hope the next time he's on a Madrid golf course, because apparently that's all he does in Spain, he thinks to himself, what if I joined Wolves? To be honest, if he joined Wolves now, he probably wouldn't even get in the team, that's how good they are. So there we have it, that's one top class player who every Premier League club could have signed back when he was a youngster. At the end of the day, were mistakes made? Yes, absolutely. Everyone makes them. You've sat and watched this video up until now. Massive mistake. But if you do like it, give it a like, give it a share, even subscribe to the channel. And even more so, you can follow me on Twitter, I'm at HITC James. But until next time, we'll see you around. And don't forget to wash your hands.